Tasting, tasting. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Hello.
It's bad.
Yes. One, two, three. One, two, three, checking audio.
That's much better.
Audio, one, two, three. One, two, three. You're unmuted. You should be Johannesburg, can you hear us? Thumbs up. Thank you. Okay, hi guys. From the Joburg and London campuses. Today we have Zappi with us. They will introduce themselves and talk to us for we start.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Jackie. I'm actually with you at Adonai, class 2021, Robert. I'm the back end But yeah, it's nice to be back everything because I've never been to this campus. It's nice to see you guys. Yeah, that's me, I think. Everything else is just down.
Hi everyone, I'm Santiago, also being called alumni, but also yeah, nice to see all of you guys, nice to see so many of you. Hi everyone, my name is Dorothy, not Lisa. I've been at Zappi for about 5 years now, and I work in security.
Hi, I'm Naomi. And I'm a data scientist, also not an online student. And I've been at Zappi for 3 years.
Hi, I'm Lisa. So I'm the office manager and the well-being lead. So I look after the office and do the social responsibility in HR, etc.
You take it away.
I think they could Zara, are you going to answer the questions?
Right now, there's no question in the chat. I think we can go through the questions that we sent you guys.
You can just remind us and just maybe open the question out to your peers. And then once we've done the questions as well, we can open up to Q&As and then we'll see some snaps after. And we can chat. Maybe full use, especially of Sam and Jackie. They so that they come through, we think, code. Question about pressure.
Why does Zappi stand I'm very taken to the accident. Yeah.
It's a very good job. Yeah, no, it doesn't stand very well. It's almost, I know in South Africa, it started as shop consulting. And then they would change the intellectual software all the other way around, I forget. And then Zappi UK bought intellectual shop South Africa and reversed and became Zappi. So the Cape Town branch used to outsource to Zappi UK. Yeah, no, it doesn't really.
Yeah. Are you all in like the same cohort class? What stage are you at?
Second semester. Okay, sorry for the. I'll see the question now. As a global leader in AI-driven consumer insights, how do you see the role of women in AI and tech evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? Can you speak on some of the challenges you face as a company in fostering diversity and inclusion with AI and tech? How do you overcome them?
Shall we? So Dorothy and I had a discussion about this question. So my first sentiment was it should be the same as it is for men. But in reality, I think it's more a general, it's not a specific question to AI, it's more a question about women in tech and in STEM. That is the prompt that kind of, we would need more people, more women to join STEM. And I think, I don't know about the questions why there's not more women in STEM and tech, but if we can get more people in those areas, then it will grow. But I don't know if you want to talk about some of the challenges women may face.
Yeah. Yes. So, everything that Michael said, I don't think it's just really a challenge of women in AI. It's definitely a challenge of women in tech in general. So, if we had a lot more women in tech and a lot more women doing different parts of in the technology space, then by extension we would have a lot more women in AI because the people are there already. Challenges that women face in AI, I think the first one is, again, coming from the pipeline of women in the tech space, is if there are fewer women in the tech space, there are fewer women designing products. So we all know how like a lot of the products that we have are would be safe developed by the majority of the people in the tech space, which are males. Whereas if we had more women, we could have more women-centric or more women-focused kind of technology. And then I was sharing with Naomi earlier that one of the challenges I did see that a lot of women in tech phase, which might also then impact the representation that's shown here. Women startups tend to have a lot less funding than the more male projects. So that's just the inspiration for, when I say for women to make more money so that they can fund more women projects.
Yeah. And I would say, as an extension to that, I think as women we are a lot more likely to accommodate the men of the world. And like, so if you have a partner, women take on a lot more of the household responsibilities, which by default gives you less capacity for your work. And these are kind of things that, like, if you are aware of them early on, you can address them early on. This is not a bash on men, it's just how things evolve. And then naturally, when it gets to having children or building a family, those things will also affect women disproportionately. So being aware of these things and maybe helping ourselves shape a different future where our partners are at least as equal and responsible for the duties as we are will give us more capacity for in the workspace. So I think like it's more, that could also be a challenge. And again, it's not specific to AI, but just helping to build, yeah.
I think I'd also like to add, especially because of a lot of excitement on AI and the tools, that I think it's actually very important for more women to be involved, especially with the certain products like image generation and large language models. A lot of them can have bias in them and not necessarily represent us, or not even be able to like detect us as well. There's a lot of women in these spaces. So yeah, I think I want to echo what you said around more women need to be developing the technology, testing the technology, and just being part of it.
I just want to say, before she answers the question, would I be able to move the laptop here because I'm not able to hear. Q, could you just help me? The wires and everything. Oh, okay. Yes.
It's very professional now.
Let's see how that goes.
Okay, for me, I don't think I can really say anything about challenges in AI, but I can maybe mention the challenges that I faced when I first, sort of still face now, like when I got into the tech space. So I think I found that what I struggled with most was, like say my first team, like when I first started doing my internship, you find that maybe you're the only girl in that team or the only woman within that particular team. And I really struggled with like confidence, sort of like speaking up the problems that I was having in that team. So what I would have enjoyed was sort of like having another woman or two in that team, because I think it really does make a lot of boosting your confidence. Because now that I've worked in teams with like ladies there, I sort of feel like an equal instead of feeling like inferior to everyone else in the team. So that was my struggle for me. So it would be nice to sort of see more women coming into the space for confidence as well. Yeah. So that was my first struggle.
This meeting is being recorded. Next question. I want to be a back-end engineer. Can you give me a roadmap of the most important concepts, technologies, or framework I need to learn?
Yeah, I can give that are on track. So I'm a backend engineer. I started as a backend engineer as well. So I can't specifically say what tech you should know, but maybe in a more general space. Because I think once you sort of like understand one backend language, it's easy to learn like the next thing and all. And I think we could sort of continue that. I'm not sure what this cohort is doing, but something along the lines of Python and Java. And I think transitioning from that one language to the next language is usually easier as long as you're like sort of willing to learn and assume that it is still here because you're sort of willing to do the sacrifice. And then also maybe because you don't know what company you might end up going to and you don't know what specific techs you would want to learn, I'd say just prepare yourself. I don't know how to put this, but I mean, cloud is a thing now. Maybe like just look into cloud, not necessarily get like a certification or something, but just make sure that you sort of understand it. Because usually when you get to a company, I think I feared when I was doing the code that I might get there and there's a tutorial or things. But when you get there, you sort of have like a bit of time to like catch up to the text that the companies are using, whether it's cloud or so maybe just try and make sure that you understand the I can't say it's a whole because it's a lot, but like maybe say backend engineer, right? You're obviously going to be working with like cloud, I think. Chances are very high chances that you're going to be working with cloud. Maybe try and look into like the AWS stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're working with AWS because of working with Microsoft Azure. But just understanding that one part, just like it is with the language, being able to understand Java, it's going to be easy for you to then move into like a Node.js space or JavaScript space because I did Java and Python reading code, and now I'm working with Ruby and Rails. And that transition wasn't so difficult because I already knew the other languages. So, I don't know if I'm rambling now, but yeah, not necessarily a specific tech, just pick something, learn it and understand it, it's going to be easy for you to move into the next thing, to be honest. Yeah.
I agree with Jackie a lot because, as she said, you don't know what programming language you're going to end up using. But as she said, once you learn one, it's much easier to learn the other. I would emphasize that I think a lot of it is about practice and also about making sure that you also learn your fundamentals well enough and then just keep practicing. You will get better as you build more things, as you get exposed to more things. And there's also other ways of thinking, I think, as a developer, debugging, reading documentation, even asking for help. There's a lot of other skills that I think aren't directly focused on like a particular programming language, but are just about being a dev, a certain temperament you gain when it comes to debugging, when it comes to like disciplining yourself when you're faced with a challenge and having to like push through. And I'm sure you guys are already experiencing. So yeah, I would say same as Jackie and then just keep practicing, keep it up.
Okay, just from what she said, just to add one more thing, I think ask questions, like ask a lot of questions, even the ones that you think you feel like, I know that sometimes like you feel like, oh, this feels like a stupid question, they're gonna judge me, but just ask. Honestly, like most of the time you'll find that people in that meeting, like maybe like half of the people in that meeting don't understand what you don't understand either, but no one else to say, just like go out and ask your questions and just sort of say when you don't know. Don't think, okay, you know what, I'm going to figure this out later. It usually sort of teaches someone else also as well. So ask a lot of questions. I always have a lot of questions, and I think that helps me a lot.
Okay. What is one thing junior devs overlook when trying to break into tech, and how can I avoid such mistakes?
Asking questions. Because I mean, there are situations where I didn't ask questions, and then you find yourself stuck on something for like 2 days. And then 2 days later, they're like, why aren't you done with this? And then you're like, I didn't know this. And it's like, why didn't you ask? And then now you're stupid. You get it? So just, sorry for the language, but like asking questions for me, I feel like that's the one that matters the most because tech-wise, you've learned here to decode, you've learned how to learn here, right? So you probably can teach yourself some of the things. But then there are certain things like when you join a company, like company-specific things that you don't understand. So don't think that, oh no, I'm going to Google this and actually figure it out. Just ask. It's probably easier and faster to just do that and then move on to things that you know that you can actually learn and do.
I would say, same as Jackie, that asking questions is so important. I think that's like one of the most important things as a
Another thing I would say is that like keep learning. I struggled, for example, I think 2 years ago, I joined the grad program and then transitioned into the junior. And that shift between like being in a learning mode where I'm learning, etc., to like working mode where I'm like, I'm tackling tickets, I'm solving real world problems. There was a time where I kind of forgot that I'm still in learning mode. I still need to like research my programming language, I still need to practice, I still need to deepen my understanding, and I can't get comfortable too soon. So I think that's one thing that I would say. Still keep growing, still keep pushing yourself. Also set goals for yourself. Don't assume that your career is just going to naturally progress or you're just going to naturally be able to tackle like harder challenges and stuff. Like pushing yourself, setting goals for yourself, testing yourself, challenging yourself, and having conversations with like the people around you, with your seniors, researching. I would say, I think one thing as a dev is you don't just learn and then get into the field and then amazing, you're applying what you did in school. It's constant. So making sure that you're still keeping up with the routine of learning.
Yeah. So I think also try and find a way to keep your other skills fresh. Because like say now I'm mostly using Ruby on Rails, and then it's like you never know if maybe you want to move on to another job or if you want to do something else. And now you can't remember all that Java stuff that you knew before you moved into Ruby on Rails. So what I did, and I'm not saying go and do that though, but what I did is that I actually started those while I was doing with tutorials, that in my free time, like I would tutor. I did tutoring once upon a time. It was for extra money as well, but like I would tutor while I was making code. But that also helped me keep like my JavaScript and my Java and my Python fresh, even though now I was sort of working with a different language. This is just to sort of, I don't know, like keep those skills fresh as well, because you never know what your next job is going to be or what your next project that you're gonna want to work on. Some people want to do startups, you might be working and then you decide that, you know what, I want to start my own thing. And then now the only skills you sort of have now is like just the backend language that you're working with, and then you've forgotten all that. So maybe just try and find a way to keep that fresh, work on like your small personal projects, build yourself a portfolio, that sort of thing. I think that's very helpful as well.
I would say to also definitely expect to be overwhelmed, because as difficult as university was in studying, work was so much worse. It was so much more overwhelming because it's not catered for you to necessarily learn, you kind of throw in the deep end. And for me, like, one of the most valuable things I did, which I only did like 2 years after joining Zappi, was to get a mentor and a coach. So someone that it's someone that's outside of my direct team that I work with, and it's someone I can like talk to about everything, whether it's me being overwhelmed or feeling imposter syndrome, and then if it's a skilled mentor, they actually have skills to help you work through it. And that kind of like, we have a lot of potential, but we can't unlock it when we are so, when we doubt ourselves all the time. And I mean, like you can know all the soft skills, you can know all the skills, but when you're afraid, it's really hard to harness it because you kind of, I just spiral. So for me, like, even if you're not at a company yet, trying to find someone that can be a mentor and help you approach, even if it's just for you to like process.
What technologies does Zappi use to ensure real-time data processing and analysis on the platform?
I'll take this question since I think of all of us, I'm probably the closest to it. This is actually a very difficult question with having your data set up so that you can do real-time data analysis is a very difficult problem. And so at Zappi, we've had a team, and I'm a part of the team. I just use the platform now, but that have spent 2 years to try and build this capability for us. And I think you need a lot of like theoretical knowledge and understanding of what solution will work for you as a company. And so for the type of data that we have, we've got very diverse sets of data currently that's all over the show, and we wanted a centralized data source. So what we needed from it was to be very efficient so that we can do real-time data analysis. So if that's not your goal, you'll maybe choose a different architecture, but for us then what we chose was one big table. It's one of the paradigms. You guys probably know better because I didn't study this, I'm just learning on the job. And so what that does for us, it will make all of our data, it will harmonize our data that we get from all the different sources. And then we can query it in real time, and within milliseconds, you can compose like thousands of rows of data and get averages and all kinds of analysis out of it, which then means the products that you could provide is far more reaching. You could provide a like more complex product. So as Zappi, I want to say we are a data company in a way, where the type of data we have is survey data from respondents, and then we want to offer it to our clients. And so what we need to do is offer them products to view their data and extract insights. And so now I forgot what the question was. Sorry, can you?
What technologies does Zappi use to ensure real-time data processing?
Okay, right. Okay, so what technologies specifically? I'm not going to really touch on the exact, because it's all SQL, right? But don't reinvent the wheel. Take something that's pre-existing, and that you need to know what your requirements are, and then you go find something that is as close as possible to what you want, and then you build on top of it. There's so many clever people doing clever things that, yeah, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that's going to be the note. That's the guys that
What skills and experiences do you look for in software developers who are transitioning from non-traditional backgrounds, and what advice would you give them? Would you give to someone looking to break into the industry?
Okay, so I can answer this one. So I've been involved in some of the recruitment that we do at Zappi and interviewing different candidates. What I look for, if it's someone who is starting from a non-traditional background and they are interviewing for a specific role, I think one of the first things is just making sure that the person can show some evidence of like interest in whatever space they want to transition into, and show that they've taken some sort of initiative into that industry. So showing, for example, that you've done some projects, showing, for example, that you've done some training, something that shows that you are interested in the industry that you want to go in, and you've actually done some initiative into that. Adding on to that is if you are transitioning into a new space, something we was chatting about with Nairobi, is that it's very hard. So one of the things would be, so for example, when I moved into security, I didn't have a background in security specifically, but I've been working in the IT space. So one of the things that I needed to have in moving was knowing that I'm literally going to be starting from scratch. But in starting from scratch, there are also expectations to say, well, you are someone with some work experience, or if you're a junior, for example, or a junior moving into a new space, we're expecting you to have some sort of either self-taught knowledge or learned knowledge. But you need to be willing to say, when I go to that space, I'm going to be starting from scratch. And are you showing the attitude that when you are struggling or when things are challenging, you can either ask for help, ask for the questions, ask for a mentor. Those are the things that I would do.
Add to that, I think with me, I think like coming into Zappi, actually Naomi, I think you did my tech interview. But I think something that you say during that was that like sometimes it's not about getting the right answer, it's alright. Like my tech interview, there were some questions there that were very questionable, but I think it mattered that I tried. So like basically someone else could have just stopped it like like, you know, I don't understand this and that, just let it be right. But I tried, like I'm hoping I got most of them right, but I don't know. But like the fact that I actually tried to answer all of those questions, because I mean there's many ways to answer questions. You might not know the answer, but just give it a try. Because I mean it matters that you I feel like it really matters that you actually try it as a person to like sort of show that okay, I'm interested in this and I actually really want to try. And then now on a different note, now something else I think would be that I think we still offers this though, where like you do the presentation thingies, or you sort of, I think there should be a new cohort starting soon that you guys are going to get to like maybe do some workshops for them. I'd say take advantage of that. I really struggled in terms of like, you know, showing my work to the team, because you are going to get to a point where you need to sort of like present your work, or in a meeting you're sharing the screen and you sort of have to speak in front of everyone. So I think that part in the Within Code program sort of helped me like gain my confidence in like public speaking. I mean, still working on it, but like just being able to like speak in front of people. So there are going to be some workshops that you do. I hope they're still there. Take advantage of that. I mean, you might think that, oh no, this is simple, but someone else might not understand, especially someone that's been starting like starting from scratch. Take advantage of that and just go present something to them, or like, you know, get a few people on the side and just try and do that. I think that's also going to really help you in terms of getting into the textbooks.
And I will say, look at you now. Yes.
I'm shaking.
I would say if you guys have any questions regarding the interview process, you should ask Zappi and Sam, because they both recently-ish went through it. Yeah, and they clearly were very successful, so.
What is the main goal of Zappi in the tech space, and how best does it support women in the industry?
Please would you repeat that? Sorry.
What is the main goal of Zappi in the tech space, and how best does it support women in the industry?
I can say about, so we as a company have gathered, like our biggest asset at Zappi is our data. However, data by itself isn't necessarily valuable if it's not harmonized and coherent. You have to be able to extract insight from said data. And so I think Zappi's role in the market research space is to bring our assets to our clients, and if they have a question about how a certain ad will do in a certain market, we have historical data that we can use to build models with and make meaningful predictions. And as a company, at least just from the purest way around data, that's part of what we would like to do, and what we do to our clients is our data asset and the context of that, which not everyone else will have. Because we were the first fully automated end-to-end market research company. So what that means is a client comes in and they set up their survey, and then as soon as they click submit, that automatically gets fielded to whatever market. So let's say you wanted to run a Pepsi ad in Egypt, and now you want to know what ad should you run. So then they will send off different ads to people in Egypt, and they will be asked questions about it. And as those people are answering the questions on their phones or on their computers, they will then automatically, when they finish their survey, Zappi will get the data and automatically generate reports and do analysis. And so that automated end-to-end market research, Zappi was the first company to do that. And so what we now bring is, I don't know, 12 years or so worth of data, and now with large language models and the generative AI technologies, we can now harness that in a new way to make predictions that we couldn't do before. And so that's, yeah. I don't know if you guys want to answer about how women,
Yeah, so I would say, so Zappi is a very conducive working environment. I would say, like, it's a very, very nice company to work for. Lisa, who is not here, is a big part of that. So, for example, things like today, focusing on empowering women, we had, I think, when was International Women's Day? On Friday? Saturday, yes. On Saturday. Oh, okay, so it was the week before. But like, Lisa, for example, of the company will acknowledge the women in the company to say, we see you, we see your contributions. a lot of the women in the other countries, for example, will have events that women can go to. We also have like channels in our Zappi communication channel that are specific to women. So whenever there's things happening in the world that are specifically affecting women, there is a channel for us to have a conversation, to discuss, and all of that. And the last thing I will add is our head of people, who is like our HR, is very focused on ensuring that there is sort of like equality between the men and the women. So Zappi has like a report where they will, like they do a staff survey every 6 months, and part of that is gauging, for example, how the women in the company feel, and if there are any areas that are issues, those issues are then addressed.
I'd like to add, I can't speak for Zappi as a company, but on a personal level, this is definitely the first time I have been in a team where I wasn't the only woman, where I have other senior female engineers to look up to. Yeah, and that's like big for me personally. It's one of the biggest reasons why I actually wanted to join Zappi. So yeah.
Okay, I think for me, personally as well, I haven't walked into a room like full of the males that work at Zappi and felt like a woman. I don't know if that makes sense. You know, like sometimes you walk into a room and they make you feel like, you know. But I haven't felt that there. Like I have lunch with the males that we have there in the office. I just feel like part of the team. So I can't specifically say what it is that like they do to support me because I'm still scary. But like I really enjoy sort of working. I don't feel like a girl when I'm like within the team. I don't know if that makes sense. So just sort of treat it as equals as it goes. And yeah, I think that's how I would say it. I really like it.
I would add to Zappi's culture in the sense that it kind of touches on what Jackie was saying, how Zappi has a really good, like Tom and everyone that is involved in helping the culture grow, is equality, and that includes for both women and men. And for the men as well, they are as flexible as we are, so they will pick up house. Like you will hear people in the TV like male colleagues, oh, I have to go pick up the children, or oh, I can't make it in today because my child is sick. And that kind of like equality and benefits across the board, like say they have maternity like leave as well. And I think it's important, so it's a bit like counterintuitive, but it's important for men to have the same privileges and expectations as the women do in terms of certain responsibilities, and I think that has like made a big difference. So men and managers also be like, oh, I can't make today because I have this thing happening in my household. Means like, yes, we're all women, and it makes it feel like I can also do it.
And that's a very good point that Nairobi has mentioned, that if the men that work at Zappi, for example, have that flexibility, that is literally supporting the women in their lives. So yeah.
What are the most appealing features from the recent databases?
We don't get the question.
What are the most appealing features from the recent databases?
I was like, what? Which data test?
I'm not sure. Well, your favorite database?
Wait, what's the most appealing thing you've worked at Zappi, maybe in our field?
Well, so I work in the data science team, so I think of everyone here, I probably touch large language models for generative AI more often than everyone else. And I would say like it has revolutionized the way we can do data analytics. So for us who's like market research company, people type words, and it's really hard to analyze words for computers because computers are good at numbers. But now with this new technology that got so good, we've got a very good, reliable way to turn words into numbers, and then a whole world is unveiled, and you can do all kinds of semantic contextualization of searching your data, which you couldn't do before. And I would say the capabilities in terms of harmonizing data and finding similarities in different kinds of data with this new tech, I think, is what is most key.
So for me, part of what we've been working on in our team is just trying to get more analytics on how the security team actually helps the business. So so the security team tends to work in the background because a lot of our work is, ideally, if we're doing a great job, you don't really know about security, you don't really care about anything that we're doing. But where that becomes a little challenging is in trying to show everyone in the company, for example, the work that is actually being done. So one of the data points that we're interested in looking at is we've recently, last year, developed a trust hub where we keep all the information about the security that we have with Zappi. Feel free to Google it. You can send me feedback if you have a look. But what that allows us to do is now we can see which of our clients are visiting our trust hub. What are the security topics that our clients are interested in? Because they'll then visit our trust hub and say, oh, I'm interested in access control. I'm interested in, does Zappi have physical security? Does Zappi have security policies? So that's what I'm most excited about in data from a security perspective.
On my side, I work with the field work team. So we specialize in getting the data in from the survey respondents and ensuring that the data is good quality. So that's one Naomi's side of things. And then getting the data to the reports where it's kind of like put into a format that the client can actually gain insights from. I'm part of actually a smaller team within fieldwork called Fieldwork Platform. And currently we are focused on reducing our costs, the cost of fieldwork, because there is a cost to getting respondents, and then also in improving the reliability and the performance of the platform. So I think I'm most excited about finding ways to save money. That's been very interesting, especially seeing how that touches on the company's bigger goals. And then also being able to learn more about how to really improve the infrastructure of the platform, how to make it more reliable. I'm gonna give it a try. Okay, so I don't think I'm gonna answer the question though. I don't think we can be interesting. But I can maybe speak to, I don't know, a question if I did think of something that I worked on recently that was quite interesting, which was it had to do with Amazon SQS. Right? Yeah, it was struggle. So, but yeah, no, but I think what was quite interesting with that was the struggle, honestly. But it sort of, what it did for me is that it exposed me to like a lot of the applications that we work on as Zappi as a whole. Because I sort of had to like connect everything locally and stuff. And then I don't want to be speaking about audiences now because I feel like I was just going into deep, but it's focused solely on like audiences. But what it was that like say a client wants to target certain customers in India, right? That's like sort of like a market in a way, and then within that target, you sort of also, I don't know, like we also work with like certain suppliers. So it's like in India, we work like 5 suppliers that supply the people that like drink like your fizzy drinks or eat salty snacks and. So what I was working on was sort of message queues. I don't know if you guys have done. I think there was message queues in my cohort. I don't know if you guys worked on that. Did it? Okay, sorry. But oh no, but that was second year. But yeah, so I think what I really found quite interesting about what I was working on was just sort of trying to figure out how everything connects from like as a new person in the company, right? From say the beginning, which would be the beginning, at the beginning, all the way to the end to reports, and then just
just starting from like say India, like just getting that information in from the customers and then bringing it in, cleaning it up, and then publishing those messages for me to save in another service, and then taking that and using it there. I think that sort of, I mean, as much as I was dealing with data in a way that also sort of helped me understand what the company is actually doing step by step. I know I went far away from the question that you asked, but yeah.
How do I prove my problem-solving skills in tech?
Yeah, I think that's the best. Trying to solve problems.
Yeah. Make a GitHub repository.
Yeah. I think
solve
maybe also
and push it to your repository.
yeah, like also like try. I mean, like I think I mentioned before that ask questions and stuff, but like there's certain things that you can Google. I think I also mentioned that as well, right? So don't be that kind of person who's like, okay, so like step one, I must do this. How do I do this? And then you're done with that. They told you. And then step two, I must do this. How do I do this? And then it's like, okay, then I'm gonna go do the job for you to get me. So if you can Google it, and it's not company specific, then usually you can find it. Like you guys may struggle also with Stack Overflow or whatever. Don't rely too much on AI or ChatGPT because then it really kills your skills. It's gonna make you a little lazy. So use it obviously if you need to, like one of the parts that you need to use it, but also just try and make sure you try and solve the problem yourself and then check out Stack Overflow. So if you can solve it by yourself, it's not like company specific, it's tech specific. I mean, that is what you're there to do. At the end of the day, don't be literally asking questions every step of the way because sometimes a senior is going to ask you, like, what did you try? So you sort of have to be able to answer those questions. Like, okay, I tried 1, 2, and 3, and that didn't work, so now I need help. So give it an hour or so to try yourself, and then also have that I did 1, 2, and 3 in the back before you go and say, hi, this thing is not working, I don't know why.
To add to what Jackie said, with relying on AI, don't use AI in like an interview and then use that as problem solving. That is not problem solving. Rather try with your own effort and then I just want to add that.
I was just to add that I was thinking of that because we have had in the past where one can see that somebody has used ChatGPT or before AI, or that you could see when somebody's Googled an answer. And the way Zappi and I'm sure many companies recruit is they obviously look to see your work units and they physically want to see how you go from A to B. Whether it's a right or a wrong answer, they actually need to understand your thinking. Because you can get to it in a different manner, perhaps, but it's not the right answer. Even with Zappi, it's never about the right answers, it's how you're thinking, strategic thinking, and how you get there. And then also how you then, if you do get something wrong or you're unsure, like you guys were saying, it's how then you interact and communicate with your team members to get to the right answer together. Yeah, so it's very
I'd also like to add on that, especially right now on this stage where you're learning and everything is very difficult and the learning curve is steep and it's just like physically uncomfortable. Don't run away from that discomfort because that's what will build your brain, make you stronger, and you will reap the rewards of it later. Like in our year, back when I was here, it was GitHub. Like taking projects that people had already created, putting it on GitHub, and just like, copying and pasting code, especially without understanding. And I think now the problem is AI. Instead of like, how do I do this? Just run into AI. Do not do that, even if you don't always get the answer right, or you write something that is bad. I think it's much better to just be bad, and then get better than trying to like run to the right answer immediately.
I would, so now that they've given all the caution against AI, obviously not an interview or that, but AI is like that very useful buddy you can have to help you understand things. So if you're going to use it just to copy and paste code, that's not going to be helpful to you because at some point it's going to catch up to you and you're going to be in a job and you're not going to be able to do the work. But if you use it as a buddy to explain to you why something is working or why it isn't working, or explain a concept to you, it's always good to double check it with like actual hardcore knowledge, because they do hallucinate. But I use it like every day in a helpful assistant to make sure if it's good. And then in terms of like other problem solving, if you want to hone your problem solving skills, you can also be a contributor on Stack Overflow. So when people ask questions, you can like suggest a solution. And like sometimes the community is cutthroat, but ignoring the few terrible people, it's a good way to like also find your voice and kind of bring your angle to a solution. It's part of the learning experience. Because I think when I've learned the few years, because you've been at Zappi for longer, it's like no one really knows what they're doing.
Everyone is learning. Everyone is always learning. And that's also the IT space. You are always going to be learning. So yeah.
And also maybe just make sure you understand the problem.
Yeah.
Because I find that most of the time you struggle because you don't really understand the problem. But if you can understand the problem and take it apart into the tiniest pieces, then it usually makes the job easier.
How can I work for you?
Now, it's a very loaded question. I must say that 2 years ago, or last year, when we were asked the question, it was like, oh, you know, recruiting's got a little bit slower. And definitely, I would say the last 2-3 years, recruiting has been slower. And the focus has been more on experienced people, so to lead new teams, and there've been new strategies with Zappi. But this year, or even late last year, we had an influx of positions, but it's been global, so a lot of marketing positions in the States, engineering positions in the UK, and now also quality assurance, engineering, not so much security, but tech ops in the Canton office. So things have really gained momentum. But how do we interview? How do we recruit? A lot of it is now through us networking, like LinkedIn, like we think code, on our website. So we post our positions, you apply. But in honesty, like not only with Zappi, but I think, you know, the broader spectrum of recruiting, it's about networking, it's about attending meetings like this, engaging with companies that you're interested in, and then just keeping a relationship going. Because it's not always easy. You may not get that your prize job first time round. Maybe the second time, you know, you may get your second job, maybe at Zappi, for example. You guys, it's not your first jobs. No. Not your first job, yeah. So, you know, you just got to keep those doors open. We don't offer internships at Zappi at the moment. It's maybe something we're going to look into. The UK does, because they've got more people to sort of support and create jobs or create projects. But in Cape Town, not so much. Yeah.
I applied by LinkedIn. No, 800 other people that applied for the same post. So honestly, there was like 800 other people that applied for the same post.
So it jumps on that. So it talks on that about your CV. So like your outside work. So it's not only about what you're studying here, it's about your side projects. Maybe small jobs that you're doing at the time, or associations that you belong to. So, you know, the CV has to sell you. You have to sell yourself. So I don't know how you solve this. You did a good job.
I honestly don't know, but it was a long process. It's kind of few interviews that I had to do, and the tech interview, and then the culture fit interview. I'd say maybe since you guys are just starting out, have something to show for, because they're going to, I mean, you're going to say, oh no, I can do one, 2, and 3, and then it's like, okay, here's the proof you get. So maybe rather like build like a small portfolio for yourself, something you can have or GitLab, just to show off and say, okay, so I built this, this is what I did, this is how I went about it. So that in an interview, like even though they might not like directly say, okay, we want to see something, you can say, okay, you know what, I can show you something that I've worked with. That also shows that you're interested in that space. So when we start working on like a project that's a full stack project, even because you don't really know if you back and front end, and your test-driven development, that actually matters now because most of like the older generation of devs didn't really do that. So now it's like test-driven development, something that really matters. So showcase a project where you actually tested it and then you're dealing with data and then the front end. That looks very impressive in an interview. I have like my own very old personal portfolio that I used to when I started out, and that has really helped me a lot. And then yeah, keep an eye out on LinkedIn and just apply. Just apply. Talk to people as well, like reach out on LinkedIn. Might not be comfortable, but just say hi. I think you mentioned like mentors. You can even ask someone from like a random company, a company that you want to work for, to be a mentor to you, and that's also going to open some doors for you.
I would say in terms of the interview process, so I was involved in Zappi's tech interview, and she was very impressed because she was curious, and so she may not have gotten all the answers right, but she could articulate her thinking. And she very clearly wanted to engage with the problem, which was really nice. But then afterwards, she asked so many questions, even about the solving of some questions. She had questions about Zappi. So she was very engaging and very curious about what we do, and kind of culture that we want at Zappi was that. So you would, if there was someone in her position that was, let's say, did a better tech interview but liked the culture, you would have still got your grades in. Because if you don't have someone that is teachable, that's curious, that can engage with people at the company, it will break down what people have built before. So
That's so true. I mean, your CV and your profile is just step number one. Then you go, like you say, exactly, there's 3, sometimes 4 processes that you have to go through. So you have to do your homework, you've got to be engaging, you've got to have your questions, you've got to have done your research on what it is you want to do. Because you're sometimes not applying for the job that you want initially. You're going to grow into it. So you need to investigate and explore companies that you know are going to help grow and develop you. Don't go for the first job, the one that's going to give you the most money. You've got to go to your job. I believe that's going to mentor you, that's going to grow you, that you can see that people have been there for a long time, and culture, there's so much more than just walking into a job and getting that first paycheck.
For someone who grew up with less exposure to the tech industry and now moving into it, how does one overcome imposter syndrome?
I think I'd say imposter syndrome is something that's hard to overcome. I think something that will surprise people, or even surprised me, is how much you will find even people that have lots of experience will still have imposter syndrome. But that comes from just feeling like you're not good enough, or there's more that I can learn. I will say for me, what has helped, I don't think imposter syndrome will ever end, but I think there's ways to manage it. So one is, for the things that you're working on, actually do your research, actually learn something. So like for me, if it's a topic on identity and access management, if I don't know it, I will have huge imposter syndrome, but I can become an expert at identity and access management at Zappi. So actually learn it, actually know it. I have less imposter syndrome. If I was to be asked about identity and access management at AWS, for example, I might be like, okay, I don't know that, but I can speak to the fundamentals that I would have learned at Zappi and that I know. And then it's also like things that you don't know, being comfortable to say, I don't know. Because I think a lot of imposter syndrome is also trying to appear like you know more than you actually do. Then you feel like, oh, I really don't know. But if you can say, I actually don't know this, then you're not an imposter, you're saying things as it are.
I'd also like to add that I think what Dorothy said is very true, especially when it comes to confidence and stuff. Especially when you're starting out and sometimes you don't know much. So not to say that the imposter syndrome is true, but maybe there's a little bit of weight to it. I would say also believe in your ability to learn, believe in your ability to figure things out, to grow. And then also, as she said, practice, learn things, and don't try to get to a place where you have to I want to say just only have confidence be the only thing, also make sure that you are still building up your skills, because I think having also true confidence that comes from being okay, as she said, I know this, I don't know this, and I don't have to just continuously put on a facade or anything.
And I say that
It's so liberating to learn how to acknowledge that you don't know something. And I've seen it in sales that we interview juniors, seniors working. And it's so amazing when somebody just goes, oh, I don't understand that. And then everybody just goes, oh, okay, we can explain it. And Zappi is so about learning. It's just incredible, I think, to see. If you acknowledge and you just open yourself up to that, people are normally very willing to teach and guide.
Okay, I think for me, I just ask myself, what's the worst that could happen, honestly? So just come out with my questions that I think I shouldn't just ask. That's what helped me, to be honest. That's how I try and go through my work situation, because I was exposed to tech in 2018, so very late in life. I got my first laptop in 2018. So obviously there are times where you feel it might be good enough for this type of thing. And just look at the people around you and just ask yourself what's the worst that could happen in this situation, and then just really go for it. Ask your questions. I mean, it's either you're going to know or you're going to feel stupid, and it's going to pass. That's it.
That was the last question, but I was asked to relay this from Jay Jonas, who's the Attention Engagement Officer of Code. I was in the same cohort as Jackie. She was really hardworking. It was a whole success and keep making us proud. I think we open the floor to questions there. There doesn't seem to be any questions online. If you have any questions online, you can send it through in the chat and on YouTube. Yeah. Any questions? Hi. Yeah. I saw you guys were working with my what the information that I received prior to you guys coming here, I saw that you guys were working on the Google, which one of each you guys use?
So,
Personally, yeah.
I'm curious to hear what everyone else says, but I think what's interesting is I don't think we actually work with the companies and the brands. So that is more of our marketing, our customer, and our sales teams. And I will say working in customer sales and marketing seems so much fun because they actually interact with the brands, they take them to events and things like that as part of just working and building that relationship. So one day.
I was going to say the exact opposite. I find great joy and comfort that I don't touch the clients that I'm far away from. Because clients can have all kinds of whims and weird expectations and whatever, and I don't have to deal with any of that nonsense. I just do my work, which is far removed from them.
I will say, I think some of our clients do give us some of their products. I'll tell you. I don't know if I can say the client, but they do give us drinks. in the London office, not us in Cape Town, in the London office, I have heard.
You said about this.
Yes.
No, but like what she mentioned it when we were there in the office, that every once in a while she gets some things to the office and tries to get them.
So maybe they are.
Got another question?
Hi, I would like to ask a question during cybersecurity. I've been looking into cybersecurity and I realized it's technical and multi-stuff. So I wanted to ask you if you can position in hacking some systems or as a more non-technical role in terms of like teaching your colleagues how to better safeguard the information and the data that you guys are using.
Okay, so that is a great question. Okay, so I'll start with how our security team is set up. We are 6 of us, and we are split into 3 teams. So we have the team that I'm a part of, which is governance, risk, and compliance. That is more, so part of what you say, teaching. So helping everyone in the company make sure that we are doing our security training. It's also just overall governance of security. So it's making sure exactly, if we say we have strong passwords, do we actually have strong passwords? If we say we are protecting our clients' data in a certain way, are we actually doing that? So that's more my role. We have a team that's called the SOC team. Now their responsibility is to keep us safe from the hackers. So they do threat analysis, threat intelligence. If people send us an email to say, oh, we think there's a vulnerability on the Zappi website, our SOC team will investigate that. Then we have our security engineering team. Now they do the actual implementation of the security controls. So if, say, our team says, okay, it's Zappi, we need to make sure that all of our passwords are a minimum of 8 characters. Our security engineers will make sure that our technology has the certain constraints to say, if you try and put a password that's 5 characters long, it will tell you, no, you can't do that, it needs to be this amount of time. So they are usually advising the developers to then implement those controls. And then our SOC team will monitor if someone tries to break our 8-character password limit, and then they will investigate that. So that's how it's set up.
I have also a question for Nairobi. Yeah, so I'm also into data analysis, data engineering. What projects do you do prepare yourself in an personal project? Because the ladies have emphasized having a personal profile to upgrade. So what projects do you do to get yourself into the data analysis space?
So I joined Zappi from a non-traditional background. I was in academia first, in astronomy. So we did a lot of data analysis, and I wrote a bunch of pipelines for that. And I just uploaded, because it was in academia, I could upload it to GitHub because everything is free. And I think that's the only thing I uploaded, was that. And that, because so when I joined Zappi, I also joined as a junior. So it was similar because your roles were also junior, correct? Yes. So at that level, we are very interested in your thinking, and if you can, they'll pose you different questions, and then they like to see how you reason about the questions. So with my GitHub repositories that I had, together with that was good enough to get me the job. In retrospect, I think there was more I could have done. More like, and this is more like self-development, like understanding some principles, some theory, like test-driven development, how that works, different testing suites. Because I would say I was very ill prepared for what a software developer actually does on a day-to-day. Because I went from like my one pipeline that I wrote and nobody else had to really engage with, to like having all these microservices and like like continuous development with like no downtime, and it was just so complicated. And if I had spent some time beforehand learning more of the principles, I think it would have been easier.
So in your, I know you said you don't specifically do like hacking, but has Zappi experienced the situation where it is complex trying to do something not using data? Because it sounds like you guys are working a lot of data, and your clients depend on that data, or you depend on that data being as accurate as possible to give proper feedback to the clients. So there's some logic business you have to do with compared to just trying to make some discrepancies in your data.
So I'm going to answer this from a general perspective. From a very general perspective, what companies usually see are, I think it's more of like external people trying to hack businesses. So that is, there are people whose job it is to try and hack companies, because it can be very lucrative if you do it the right way, but it's bad, don't do it. So yeah, I would say, like for example, we have people that will send messages to Zappi to say, we have discovered, for example, vulnerabilities. And then our job is to test if those vulnerabilities actually exist. This is a very difficult question to answer, so I can only answer it in a very generic way. But what I will say is, most businesses have people that are trying to hack them or test their systems or attack them. And when it's the hackers, it comes in two parts. So there are people that are called there's a process called a responsible disclosure. So say someone is interested in testing if Zappi actually has good security. We have a responsible disclosure policy on our website that will tell you these are the kinds of tests that you can do on the Zappi website. And if you find a vulnerability, you can then send us an email to say, hey, this is what I have found. Big companies like Amazon and AWS will have a bug bounty, where if you actually do discover like a real vulnerability on their platforms, they will pay you a little bit of money. And why we have these programs is to try and discourage people from the illegal hacking and try and encourage more ethical security research. Yeah.
I have a question for you along those lines. Yes. Have we had a case of like, so you can do like SQL injections? Have we had a case of prompt injection where, we have the agents now where it's some language models built in where the people can engage with a language model via us? Do we have safeguards against prompt injections?
We do have some safeguards on prompt injections. I think for all of our input, and I have to double check which I'm correct, but for all of the input that we have with Zappi, we sanitize it. And we do tests to remove, especially, so what used to be an issue was a common issue, SQL injections, but exactly like I always say, we're now seeing that in prompt injections. So for all of our input, we do sanitize and we do those kinds of checks. Yeah.
Does that happen by the security team?
No.
Or so if I'm hosting such a service, then it's my responsibility to check?
Yes, if you're hosting that, it would be your responsibility to check, but we should tell you that. Yes.
Okay. I just have a question in the chat. Is a degree important for becoming a data analyst or skill sufficient? Is a degree important for becoming a data analyst or skill sufficient?
Do you guys do you get degrees from within code?
I think it's in level 6.
Yeah, the level 6.
Okay, so
Data.
I don't think so. I hold a PhD in astrophysics, and I don't think that was helpful. So arguably the highest degree in analytical field. And yeah, I think I would have been better off doing anything code, honestly.
I think times have changed. Definitely, when I was involved in recruiting maybe 3-4 years, 5 years ago, it was very much, okay, you've got your degree and we can see your subjects and we can see your marks and it's, you're above 75% and it's the right degree. And times have completely flipped. We have some of the best engineers that are either still studying or have self-taught. And it's just about who you are. So now the CVs, that's why the CVs and your LinkedIn and your networks are so important. Because they really get a look to see, okay, well, you've created this. Yeah. Does it matter what your background is? You have now created this and you have the knowledge. So, I mean, not to take away from having a degree or your insights, I think this gives you such an amazing foundation of what you think you learn from them. Yeah. But it's not the only way you're going to get into any job anymore. The focus is very different. The world has changed.
Yeah, if you have a strong portfolio, whichever that way that would look, wherever you want to host it, I think any company will choose you over someone with a degree that doesn't have a strong portfolio.
Yeah. And what I will add is with I think with a degree, it used to be one of the only ways for companies to authentically verify that you've learned something and you have the technical skill. So that's why it will always be an emphasis on you have a degree from this place, so we know you have actually done this. In IT, it's not necessarily about just a piece of paper. It is, do you have the knowledge? And you can self-teach a lot of the principles and the actual theories. And as long as you understand them, you can then demonstrate that, yes, you know the knowledge, you don't need a degree. But if you're a doctor, for example, no one would be like, I'm happy to go to a self-taught doctor. No. But IT, yes.
Coming from a tech background, I was thrust into this space out of curiosity. I've heard very widely in the industry that there's not a lot of women in the industry. I was approached to ask what is Zappi doing to create awareness outside of tech and going to tech institutions to be like, hey, yes, you want to be a doctor, but what about being a software developer, something like that, from a grassroots level, so that people grow up knowing that this is an option. What does that do?
No, it's a very good question. I think us being here and being here for the last 2-3 years is testament to that. So we're not trying to market ourselves as the best company or this is not a recruiting drive. We try to engage with women through Think Code and elsewhere. I'll mention elsewhere we go through. But it's just about exposing what we do and giving people and women an insight into what's available. So, we do quite a bit of social initiatives. We've got this, we go next to homes, but 2 places where we know we can try and uplift women. It's not only about us hiring, because there's so much more. You're going to go out there, you're not going to join Zappi, you're going to empower women elsewhere. So just us sitting here, and I mean, it's daunting, we're not presenters and you guys asking questions, it's already you put yourself out there. So that's Zappi's focus. In the UK, there's quite a bit of internships that they have, and they have some NGOs that come and work from the office to give them exposure into what it's like, what it's like to work in that kind of environment. Does that answer your question? What else do you do?
So definitely events like these ones. I know our marketing team in market research, I think there's a whole female.
Yes, we have that.
I think it's called MISS. I forget what it actually means, but the acronym is MRS. But they do a lot of work with women and trying to encourage the growth of women in market research. So the Zappi will either sponsor some of those events, or Zappi, women in Zappi will go and speak to those events. And it is all in an effort to sort of like encourage and grow women in technology.
I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
I have a question for Nairo. Okay, guys. I want to venture into data science. I did a degree in geology, and we do a lot of research, and we need to process the data a lot. So I want to know, how do you guys make sure that your data is reliable, like data integrity? How does the company know that your data is like real and reliable, and they can actually make predictions using it?
That's a really tough question because it's a very difficult job. That is like part of Zappi's problem. So the company's evaluation is partly done with this data asset that we have. And ironically, as a data scientist, it's one of our core problems to solve, is to be able to sanitize the data, because for any machine learning model, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So your data that you put in has to be really good. And that's very tough. So I would call these two phases to it. The one is respondent quality. So the team that Jackie and Sam is in, the app that they manage kind of like collects all the data and then sends it to the different microservices to like do different things to the data. So the first thing that they do is they send the data to our machine learning server, where we do quality checks on the data. And given certain parameters and different features that we've designed, we then decide if a respondent is good or bad. And so there'll be a bunch of bad behaviors that we screen out for, and that's a big part of it, and that happens on the fly, so you have to be quite quick and efficient. So that's the first level, and that data then becomes part of the good respondents. They become part of our data asset. But at that point, it's not yet ready for machine learning. To get that done, I think you need to know what you want to solve for. So you need to know, what problem are you solving? Are you wanting to do topic extraction? Then you go like, okay, I need this and this for my data. So then you have to go choose your data asset to be able to work for that. And then you have to decide, okay, do I have to tokenize? Do I have to remove punctuation? What kind of things do I have to do to my data to transform it, to make it useful? And then what we'll do is, okay, now we'll do topic extraction. And then we want to make sure those topics that we extract are good. And then we can feed those topics into even another machine learning pipeline to do other things with, like, let's say, make synthetic respondents of. So I think the how is very much informed with the what you want. And there will be different techniques to apply at every level. But it is a very difficult problem. I think we spend 90% of our time trying to prepare the data. I mean, at companies like OpenAI, the vast majority of their money is spending getting good data to be good enough to go into the models.
I started coding without knowing anything literally, and then with my time here, I've realized that I don't know how to call it, but I think I lack originality. I find it hard to start my thing, but I find it very I enjoy debugging. You have a code, I will look at it and I will solve your code. I literally do that, but I find it hard to start my own code.
Start your own thing from scratch.
Yes. How do I overcome that? I can't start my own code, but anybody's code they can give me, I will tell you where it's wrong, and I can actually solve it.
Okay. I think how I would do it is that I don't know, maybe where you're from, where you stay, find a problem there. that like people are facing. So or find a problem that they're facing here and start from there, start with the problem. Because like just sitting down from scratch and be like, I want to write something, you sort of need to have something that you want to solve.
I do have something to solve, but like for instance, now they said we must create a Sudoku game.
Yeah.
I list everything that I have to do. I have my algorithm, but then now I don't know like blank space.
Okay, blank space like how in terms of you have the skill, do you feel that you have the skill to do it?
I think I do, because once I write one line, everything comes. I can just do it. But I don't know where to start. I'm not sure if you understand me. I do make my algorithm because before I code, I actually write what are my variables, what am I given, what is the end, whatever. Like for instance, they say I'm trying to take input age, and I will say if you are 18, do this, if you are 19, do this. I already have the algorithm that I'm gonna have to do that, but now the problem is starting. Yeah, well, I know what I need to do, but starting, and then the moment I was like, okay, someone is like, just start with like, create a list of numbers. I create a list of numbers, then now it comes.
I think I think one thing I'd say is like breaking it down. Because sometimes when you have like a whole thing in your head and you're like, okay, but I need this, but I need that. So like maybe breaking it down, even like function by function, and being like, as you said, so what you need a grid, it needs X amount, by Y amount, you need to take in some input. I think I actually always like to start with like taking in the input, like literally like what input am I taking it, how am I storing it, and then maybe start with one piece of the logic. Yeah, I think that's the one. So try and like break it down and then like just focus on one thing at a time. I don't know if you're surprised if you're struggling.
Man,
I think
me.
I can't remember what video that was, but I watched something that was sort of, but I think it was just making to like breaking down a problem where it's like maybe think about where let's say your project would start, like say it's a game, right? That's high level. And then now if you went in smaller and you broke it into a smaller piece, what exactly is it? All the way until I mean at the end of the day we're always dealing with data, all the way to the data that you're dealing with, and then you know that okay, so the data that I'm dealing with is numbers, right? And then a unique set of numbers for this. Just create that and go from there. But I'm not sure if that also answers for your fear because at the end of the day you do need to start typing. So I'm not sure if that's really answering your question.
It helps.
For some injecting, yeah, what's now shifting. So what projects do you do personal projects aside calculators that you can see online, but personal projects that you can
I think there was a project that we did at Within Group. I didn't make a Within Group project, but that gave me an idea. I don't know if you guys are there yet, so I don't know what I'm supposed to say. But like it was called WeShare. It was like a financial sharing platform where it's like you borrow your friend money or you pay for a friend's lunch. And then later on you send them a request to say, hey, give me my money back. Right. So with that project we did a lot of I think it was multi-threading. That was terrible, but yeah, it blends in. But I think it was sort of like a full stack project that I tried to build on the side, and I never made it public. I kept it private to sort of thing. But what that then had for me was that it had a front end, it had a back end, it had the data, it also had the testing. So I would say a project that you go for it really, I mean, a calculator. I mean, also it's still a skill, not I. I have multiple calculators in my report. I make the private because it's embarrassing, but like, but I mean, just have something that's going to have where you're dealing with data, whether it could be MySQL or PostgreSQL, connecting to a database, and then have the backend where you're actually accessing that data and also test that connection between the two and test your code. And then have the front end that's actually going to be accessing the backend. And now you have the full stack application. And irregardless of what you interview for, you sort of have gone through these entire steps. So just, I think I honestly also just Googled best project for interview and then maybe if I was looking for something specific to Java, best thing to do with Java, I think there was like a airplane management system, like a passenger management system, something like that. Let's start from there, start with the backend, test it, and then after that, just think about how you could show that sort of information at the front end, and then you have your full-stack application.
Thank you. I think we've done it. There's some afterwards if you have any questions. I just want to say thank you to everybody that viewed it virtually. Thank you to all of you guys for being here. And obviously a big thank you for Zappi for answering all of our questions, for coming in today, spending the day with us. Thank you guys.
Okay, I guess that brings us to the end of today's event. Thank you guys for joining. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.